Hi, this is Chris Romansky with Sporktopia Games, here today to talk about Streetcars. Streetcars is a roll and write game for 1 to 4 players. This game is near and dear to my heart because this is what I do when I am not making games. I design streetcars for streetcar routes for a living, so this was a fun project to try to figure out how to get that into a game form. So with Streetcars, what you get in the box, there are 4 red dry erase markers. There's also 6 custom dice. And then you get 4 game boards here. So on the game board, you've got a grid here that's your city. You've got a final score tally with information on what to do on your turn. Then on the back of the boards are the rest of the rules here to tell you how to use the dice and scoring. So I'll walk you through real quick a little bit about how you play the game. So the first thing you do is you will write 3 A's, 3 C's, and 3 E's on your board. And they can't share the same row or the same column. You can kind of see here there's a grid of 9 by 9 with these thicker lines here, and there's some smaller dashed guidelines to help you draw what you need to draw when you roll the dice. So let's get started, and we'll just fill in. Let's see, we'll get some C's. C's represent commercial. E's represent entertainment. And A's are academics. And we'll do one right here. Okay, so you can see we've got 3 A's, 3 C's, 2 E's. None of them share the same row or column. So the goal that we're trying to do is we're trying to build the best streetcar network. So some of the things that you're going to be trying to do, you're going to try to make squares that don't have open connections. You're going to have squares in a closed loop, which is basically if you can, you put your finger down on your game board there, you follow a path, and if you can make it back to where your finger started, that's a closed loop. You lose points for having disconnected ends. If there's a stop on the track near any of the A's, C's, or E's, you get points for that. And then you get points for completing a loop that connects all of your A's or all of your C's or all of your E's. So on a turn, and I'll just play this as a solo here, you take your dice, you roll them, and there's going to be some different faces on there. So if you get one of these, that's a straight line. This one here looks like a streetcar outline. That's a wild card, so this can be used for whatever you want. These filled in ones are stops. These pluses, that's a diamond. And then some other things that you might find on there. So there's a bend there, that's a curve. And this T here, that's a turnout. Okay, so you roll once. You pick the items that you want to keep. So let's just say I want a couple of straight lines and a wild card, because wild cards are always great. And we'll put a curve there, and you get 1 chance to re-roll. So I'm going to take these 2 dice, and I'm going to roll. Alright, good. So we have a turnout, and we have another straight. In the multiplayer version of this, you would take one of your dice, you set it off to the side. Everybody else is forced to build, or forced to draw whatever you set aside. For the solo game, you just choose 5 of the dice that you want to draw. And on your turn, you don't have to use what you roll, but you do end up getting a bigger network and potentially more points if you do. So let's see, let's start with, okay, let's start down here by this A, and I'm going to use this turnout. So by the A, I'm going to draw in a T in here. So I'm following the guidelines, and I get 2 tracks that run into each other. Let's see, I've got a bend in here, so let's do a curve. So we're going to try to pick up this other A. So then we will draw a line over here. So now this curve is drawn in. So we set those aside. Let's see. Okay, we'll draw a straight line. So now We'll do that up there. And you don't have to draw right next to lines that you draw when you start, so you can draw wherever you want. So like I could take this straight line over here, and I don't know, let's do something kind of out there. I'll put it right up in here. Maybe that'll connect somewhere in the future. Then we'll use this wild, we'll use that as a stop. So I'm gonna put that down here. And that was one turn. So then when you're playing, you can kind of see, so for one player we play 8 rounds. If it's 4 player, it'd be down to 5 rounds. So when you complete a round, then I just draw an X through the round. If you were playing where you had more players, then I would just draw a line through the rounds that you're not going to play. So you keep doing that, you keep rolling. Solo game, we'd be playing this as 8 rounds, like I said. And when you get to the end of your round, you're going to end up with something that looks kind of like that. So now we get to scoring. So I've got squares with no open connections. So I had a pretty solid game here solo because I'm not forced to take anything. Solo game tends to end up with a nice clean network. So I would just count up my squares in here that don't have any open connections. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Okay, so I've got 31 here, and those are each worth 1 point, so that's 31 points. Squares in closed loop. So the way you figure out a loop, so let's say I start, we'll pick a spot like right over here. So if I can go and make a loop around and get back to, well, let's go around here, come down, over, and up, and get back to where I started. That's a closed loop. So the way this network is set up, I mean, I could go around and I can get to every single one of these squares. So rather than take the time to count those squares again, we know that was 31 from the previous count, so that's another 31 points. So disconnected lines. Okay, so right now I don't have any disconnected lines, but let's just say that I had to do that. Okay, so now I've got 1, 2, 3 disconnected lines here. So I would put that over here, put 3, and then those are worth -3 points each, so we take 9 points off. Stops on track at A, C, and E. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stops. So these stops need to have track that run next to them, and they can't have any track running into them, and they need to be next to the letters. The letters are off limits when you're drawing, but they can have items next to them there. So I have 9 stops. Those are worth 2 points apiece. That's 18. And then now completed loops around A, C, and or E. Okay, so the way this works, so for A, let's say I start over here. So again, we're doing the check to see if we've got a complete loop. So I come up here, I turn at the turnout, I turn at the turnout, I come back around, and I'm over here. And that had stops for all the A's. So you don't need to go and make a circle around A, and it doesn't count for each A. You have to get all 3 in there. So I'd get 5 points for that. Now for E, this one's a little bit trickier. So we come up here, we come around, and we got back to where we started. So both of my E's are within a loop, and then C's, these get a little crazy up here. Okay, so I can come down, let's see, let's start up in this corner. So I can come down past the C, I can come around, and then I can turn down here, I can come around, I can come back up, pick up that C, come up here, cut across, and get the last C, come down, around, up, over. That's another loop. So I got all the C's. So now that gets me another 3 points, or another 3 times 5 points for those. So that's another 15. And then we add it all up. So we got, let's see, 40 and 46. So that's 86 points, which is pretty good. Typically with the multiplayer, your top person's going to have somewhere around 40, 50 points. Just because you're going to end up having to use stuff you don't want to use with the die that gets passed by each player. So that was Streetcars. Pretty quick playthrough. Thanks for watching.